Good morning, all. It is the 22nd of December, 3 days before Christmas. Welcome. We have a market that's fairly mixed after yesterday's big ramp up as far as stock market goes. We have our first source of data coming out for the week, so there's eyes on that just out in a few minutes. And of course, all the news has been Omicron. Different thoughts on that overnight from different countries. A lot of countries are really ramping up fear, lockups, etc., etc. Others seem to be getting on with it. You can see the same in the US, depending where you live. That is overhanging the market. KMX is up after posting some impressive earning results. That was out in earnings this morning. Tesla again's back in the news. We had a report I saw overnight of them being sued for people being able to play games in their Tesla. However, it's up overnight because Elon Musk has come out speaking to Reuters and said he's sold enough stock. Oil futures are a little changed. We had the API number out last night, which is on the site. We have the EIA out this morning, around 10:30 Eastern time. And that, as far as natural gas goes, we are sitting around just under $4, pretty much the same there. Currency-wise, we have the pound as the strongest and the Japanese yen as the weakest. That's been the theme. England is much to do with not just numbers coming out there, but what Boris Johnson, their PM, has to say. Treasuries are seeing little let up on yesterday's selling pressure move, meaning higher interest rates across the curve. It's mainly a curve factor. Remember, we had a strong 20-year bond yesterday. So let's, without further ado, let's look at where we are futures-wise. So if we look at the daily first, that's the main thing we were talking about yesterday. You can see that we closed just above the Tenkan, and we're trying to hold above that. That's a that orange line. So it is a choppy market, isn't it? The last little ways. So, it's something to keep tight, as we talked about yesterday in a good chat. We hold above here. We've obviously got all this above here. The key is to hold above here. We have a lot of support. The downside is pretty self-evident there on the daily chart. So keep it simple, keep that. If we look at the hourly, more specific, let's scrape that across for you. We came in and yesterday we retested all this energy, that area that we wrote down from. Remember the 1, 2 and the 1, 2, series of 1, 2s? That's where all the work was. Now our daily Tenkan stand comes in just around here also. So in an ideal world, we would get back, if you're a bull, test this channel. If you remember your median line, it held well. And you can actually draw your outer band here. Get back and get inside it. That is what you need. Murray, math-wise, remember, almost 08 is perfect. So an 8/8 move would coincide with that. So there you have, it would get almost perfectly. See how that's almost a perfect fractal. And if we go to the 5-minute, which is this morning, we can see what's going on overnight. Pretty well not much. We saw a sell-off from the high, but this, what looks like a massive move, is, like about 10 handles. So we are congesting. Remember, it is Christmas. We're not going to be around much the next few days, in and out personally, and I'm sure that's the same with a lot of you. So we saw a little wick on the numbers that just came out. So overnight, let's go quickly through those, given we are here. So overnight, remember, we talked about what's going on in England. Just quickly on the others before we go through the numbers that just came out. Spot gold's up $4. Silver up 13%. 13 cents, sorry. Bitcoin's trading back around 49,000. I guess 50,000 would be a big psychological level. So that's what's going on there as far as those markets go. Asia. Oh, the one other thing, there's an interesting story from, yeah, thanks for that, from Walter Reed, the US Army, where they have a COVID vaccination. They're basically in their phase 1 with humans, that they believe, or the early signs at least, are showing that it will be have us protected against all variants, those in the future, and against Omicron. We will see. They're taking the, I guess some would say, the legal track or the slow track to see if this works. I know when we put that on Twitter, there was a lot of comments, sarcastic and justified really, about what's going on there. Potentially, whether they're going to test it, and it's a comparison, of course, to the mRNA and the Pfizer ones. So let's have a quick look at the numbers that have just come out. I'll just log on to our Reuters here. We can see the market on the 5 minutes. Not a major reaction there. But as far as we go through, we had US personal consumption, which came out at 2%, which is higher than expected 1%, 1.7% in previous. Remember, the GDP is the third round or the third look at it. That came out slightly better at 6% on the price index versus 5.9%. The annualized number, 2.3% versus 2.1% previously. The core PCE, which is PCE is one of the core, PCE is one of the favorite of the Fed, that and the Dallas trimmed. That was also out. That came out at, let me see, 4.6%, slightly higher than 4.5. The Chicago National Activity Index was also out. Some people like to watch that. That was from November, 0.37. The expectation was 0.4. So not a lot in all those numbers, really, to shock. And I don't think many people are looking for that. These sort of numbers, they're look backs, they're Q3. If anything, they're just bombs for the algorithms, right? So third reading was 2.3 versus 2.1, as we said. Okay, let's continue with these charts here. And you can see 5% move, five handle move, sorry, at best on those news items. So we've gone through that. Let's go through Nasdaq overnight, almost identical to the S&P. Basically, we didn't go up too much, which is solider, really, rather than just manic buying. It also just shows you that it is Christmas in around the world. So a lot of positioning's already been done, and a lot of people just aren't trading. So there's your Nasdaq. Again, if you recall, that's basically a 4/8 move there. We look at 30 minutes on that. So we're just sitting around this congestion. And so if you're just looking at Ichimoku, be consistent, but you can see when it gets choppy, you can get basically false readings. That's why it's important to have other components of your trading. If you're using technical analysis, which you should be basically to keep your discipline, even if it's just for that. I know a lot don't believe in it. So it is what it is, right? Exactly. So that was a nice minus 128 move yesterday on the Russell. That was the start. We didn't quite get to test this, but we got it very, very close to it back from the 15th. It needs to hold on to this channel before it has a nice little correction. Your support is pretty clear. We're now underneath this, but this is a thin market, pre-market. You have this cloud. Again, I look at this short-term 30 minutes. Keep an eye on this 50. That was very good as far as signaling the break when all three of them crossed here. And if we look at our little apple, it's holding just under 173. Remember, it did fill that gap we looked at yesterday. We're sitting under its 50. That's the big level for it. It needs to get above that. You can see where it not only broke that, it was very consistent all the way out. We are inside that cloud. We do have that trend line. You can draw that one yourself. You have this big pennant. It is a flat top triangle, so if I was to draw a line across there, which I can of course, if it breaks all this, you can see the energy. Often when it breaks this to the downside, it becomes a larger 1-2. But that is what we're watching. It needs to break out of it soon if it's going to maintain that energy. You look for a flat top triangle to break out 75 to 80%, around 80% now. And the target is going to be from the peak to the trough there. And if we look at our POC here, our market profile, you can see where it is. Let me get rid of that. Right here, which is right around there where we close, which you would imagine. Right, and so we're back into all this congestion or balance area, very similar to what the Chico should type of understanding. And up here we got an untouched piece at POC, or a virgin POC, you can see, which is up at, what is that, 47.35 on cash. It's a long way up there. So that's your potential, should we get moving. NVIDIA was up yesterday on that MU news, which pretty well took the whole market up. That's also stopping at resistance, similar to Apple. Remember, there's a flat top triangle there, except we are over it and trying to rework it. If we come to oil, oil's big numbers are today. The EIA, that's weekly, unless there's a holiday. Remember, that's out every Wednesday, or that's from the Department of Energy. So I got two messages yesterday. Why is it DOE somewhere in EIA? I really couldn't tell you otherwise. They seem to be interchangeable. But Department of Energy is used. I see that used in oil. I never see it used in natural gas. I always see that interchangeably. They seem to be EIA. I don't think it means too much. Anyway, let's look at our daily. You can see we got back up to the Cajun, the pink line. We're starting to see a twist here, which is more bullish, but again, more power if it's flat. It's just replicating what the market's doing below. Just think logically on all these things. And then if we were to go hourly on oil, you can see overnight, it's just mimicking that chart we saw in the S&P. So it's all to do with risk on, risk off in overnight when there's no news, predominantly. So here we are again at the Tenkan, and we have a lot of room. This is 1/8, and it's just minus 1/8. That's all that is just a 4/8 move. There is a fractal working here if we can get above, which would actually bring us into this previous high, which gives you a nice triple top on the top side. Downside, you've got this working. Again, it's not flat, but it is pulling that down. So we would need to hold this level. But look at the patterns. This trades very nicely in patterns. So we broke this line here, but we're failing to react down. So then we go to our 5-minute chart, and we want to see where everyone is. So we're actually trading above the pivot. We would look support there, 70.5, and then S1, S2 start to get wider again because of that big move we had 2 days ago. So 69.30 is your first level there, and then we have back over 72, which coincides what we look to on the hourly chart. That's pretty well sums up that. As far as natty gas goes, we are doing our best. As I said, once you start getting a trend change, we're trying. We have that big double bottom, a false break here. We had 2 days in a row up, now 3 days in a row up. Let's see if psychological, at least, if what's going on in Europe actually affects here. They have no relationship in actuality, except for one thing, LNG. And LNG ships are basically plugging up the shipways, particularly around Europe from the US and otherwise. So US has been gaining very quickly on their UN exports, catching up with Australia and Qatar. And Indonesia's a big one, yes. So here we poking our head above this trend change. Remember, this was the gap fill when we look at it. So that's your natural gas. The number is out tomorrow. Again, watch. So as Europe is a different thing, it does affect psychologically. So it all depends how short the market is with that sort of thing going on. You can see. Let's finish up with where we are 5 minute as our main, so we can see what's going on. As I said, this looks like a massive move. That whole range is 16 handles. So as far as the market goes, we are not out of the woods if you're a bull, and we're not out of the woods if you're a bear, right? There's plenty on offer there. The question is, are there any more fear bombs, or is the market just generally worn out on both sides, which often happens this time of the year? So stick to those levels. Any questions, just give us a shout. As far as Asia was overnight, it was just steady, slightly up in Japan, Hong Kong, and down in China. But nothing big. We will see everyone. It's going to be very quiet now, going into Christmas. So if you got a last bit of Christmas shopping, keep that in mind, that the market is probably doing the same in many respects. As far as anything I'm doing is pretty well just optionality, if I'm doing anything at all. So have a great day, have a great trading day, like and subscribe. Look back on yesterday's, we have a much longer overview that we do on the night before. Today is really just a wake-up call. So like, subscribe, share it, follow us on Twitter, traders.com.